Good morning. This is day 4 of the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge. This is Thursday. We are officially right in the middle of the challenge. So although yesterday was Wednesday, hump day of the work week, today is the hump day of the 7-Day Challenge. And today, don't know if you've noticed, but I'm coming to you naked on the face anyway. And it's kind of symbolic of what I'm discussing today. And day 4 of the challenge, the topic that we're covering is oils. And as far as the lethal recipe goes and its connection to the consumption concept and nature's principle, the philosophies that you're learning, that you have in your videos in the program, and how they actually relate to us using them, in our diet and personally. But I'm also making connections mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because the 7-Day Challenge is not about just changing your diet, and it's not about having a bunch of meal plans, that you're scrambling to learn new recipes, to, all of a sudden you're having to prepare all this new food and get all this material. It's not designed that way. The challenge is mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And so you'll notice that there isn't a huge amount of work around the actual diet per se. You've got definitely knowledge, you've got information, you have challenges around that. But the whole point of the Return to Food Challenge is to actually start to get us thinking differently about food and our body and how that relates to one another and the planet. Which is why there's just one recipe a day. Is, to be quite honest, most people, when they're going through something like this and life is going on, and many of you have already commented in the Facebook page that you haven't been able to fully embrace the challenge because you're juggling school, and kids and all these other things that are happening, and life definitely gets in the way. And so the idea behind the challenge is, let's just change one recipe a day. If we can just implement one recipe and start with this, it's going to make a huge difference to the end of the week if we just even take one recipe. And the other thing is that we have enough already on our plate. We don't need to be overwhelmed with 3 new recipes each day. And the idea behind it is to create recipes. Some are more complex than others, and some are super simple, and I've tried to disperse them into others. But things that you will be able to replicate and do again. 1, because they taste so good. 2, because they make you feel so good when you're eating them. And 3, because they're not hard. They're not terribly challenging. When I was a chef, it was all about making towers of things and making things look beautiful and all that kind of thing. But as a home cook, for me, it's about making it really functional, easy, simple, and taste great. So that's a priority. So that's why there's just one recipe a day. And through Return to Food, through the book, through the videos, there's lots of recipes abound. And we certainly have no shortage of recipes on the internet. But what I want you to do is not just have a lot of information. As I spoke about before, the ego loves information. Oh, give me tons of recipes. Will I actually cook any of them? That's another thing. So I just wanted to actually cover that. Now, what I'm talking today in this hangout is about protection, cellular protection, which is what oils are involved in our diet around. Really good, healthy, natural fats and oils occurring in nature. They actually protect us, and you'll learn more about that in the video provided on oils. But I wanted to kind of move into the emotional side of protection, and that's why I'm coming to you vulnerable with my naked face to mirror the thoughts that I want to share with you today. One of the things that comes up for a lot of people around food is the not feeling safe, and we talked a little bit about that yesterday. The meditation today is really about developing that basis of self-protection that's internally generated. We have like soft outsides. We have little soft, tender insides. And I think so often we are used to going through the day with a conditioning that we have to be tough. We have to be strong. We have to create, in some respects, a hard exterior. And it's a front. And what happens all the time is that behind the front is someone who's very tender, very sensitive, and very vulnerable. That is our nature, unless we've just had such years of thick layering of defenses that we actually have a perception of being hard. But you as a human, as a soul, have a deep tenderness to you and a sweetness to you. And today I want to encourage you to be somewhat vulnerable, to start to be honest with yourself. Because when we have issues around food, it's always a result of internal goings on. And what I do know is that most women who have suffered with weight issues, and particularly covering their body with fat, armoring they call it, have been sexually abused, and men as well. And we're just finding now that the statistics are showing maybe 1 in 4, but the reality of if you talk to anyone in their family, how many people actually report sexual abuse from family and friends, from their childhood, is very, very low. So I would, my own guess, based on my own experience and talking to women and certainly being in groups and the level of vulnerability that's shown there that may not be, reported statistically, I would say it's 1 in 2. And that can actually take years to uncover. And so in the interview today, I'm talking to Kim Barthel. And Kim Barthel is a therapist who has been working with Theo Fleury. And Theo Fleury, if you don't know, is a colleague client of mine. And he came out in recent years with his experience of sexual abuse from a coach and wrote a book about it. In fact, it was Canada's biggest all-time selling biography. And they've been working around the country to help heal people from sexual abuse. And from someone who's actually experienced this myself as a child, it's something we're still, there's a lot of things that actually come up for people. And one of the things I remember hearing on an Oprah episode was the sexual abuse is not the worst part of it. It's the keeping of the secret. And I certainly know from working with people in the health realm is that our secrets keep us sick. And I've heard the expression, and I've actually seen it in reality. And what I want you to do is, you may not have been sexually abused, or you may have just had sexual inappropriateness with you, which sometimes people think, well, if I wasn't penetrated, then I wasn't sexually abused. But there can be a lot of sexual inappropriateness that makes us feel icky and can actually make us feel less than our incredible, beautiful, perfect self. And so I want you to encourage you that if you've had any of this that's actually gone on in your background, to really find people who can actually help you to deal with it, to see your own beauty, to really heal from it. That's a big thing. And the other piece that I wanted to talk to you about around this is the concept of divine redirection. And the quote that we're sharing on the website today on the actual dashboard is that often things that have happened to us, the good that we actually wanted to happen that didn't happen, can often be a divine redirection. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sometimes we're expecting something to happen to our life, another thing happens. And sometimes things that are actually terrible can be a catalyst for divine redirection. And to give you an example, when I was traveling in Europe in 1988, I was actually sexually assaulted. I was raped in Italy. And it was a very obviously traumatic thing that happened to me at the time. And I was definitely traumatized. And at that point in my life, I knew I had 2 choices. I had 2 roads to go on. I had one where I could keep spiraling down in my secrets and my negative thinking, that supported all of that. Or I could go and get help and work my way up to heal what was actually inside. And I wasn't really conscious that I had a lot of healing to go on the inside. What I thought I had to heal was the actual incident of the assault. But when I started to go to therapy, when I started to see counselors, when I started to do the work, I realized that the trauma of my childhood was like this compared to the assault that was right here. So healing this was a much more significant piece for me. And so it's interesting how this thing that we think is absolutely terrible of a sexual assault was a catalyst for the divine redirection of me actually addressing the issues of my childhood that were very painful. And the great thing about addressing that, and each layer that I took off of that negative self-conversation, each time I exposed a secret, each time I participated in an act of vulnerability, of disclosing that and working through things, was like taking off chunks of clay off of my body. So there's a wonderful analogy that's they talk about a Buddhist community. It could be Thailand, I'm not sure, I don't remember the exact story, but in the Buddhist community, they had a golden Buddha. And this golden Buddha, there were neighboring tribes that were coming to pillage villages, and they knew that the golden Buddha would have been taken away. And so what they did was they covered the golden Buddha with clay to disguise it, so that the neighboring villages, these invaders, wouldn't actually take their Buddha, their golden Buddha. And years of had passed in time. And as the villages, generations had passed, people had actually forgotten that the Buddha was actually golden, and because it was covered in clay, and they didn't actually undo it because they didn't want it to be taken from them. And one day, someone was walking by, a monk was walking by, and a little bit of clay popped off, and you could see the little bit of gold coming through from the Buddha. And the analogy they make in this story is that we are like that golden Buddha, and in our life, that clay we put on to protect ourselves, right? We actually, armor, whatever, we create hard exteriors to protect ourselves, when underneath we are truly absolutely golden. And in order to get back to that golden place, we have to kind of chip off these bits of clay. And so our stories, our secrets, our negative thoughts are these lumps of clay that we just need to start chipping off. And we do that by being vulnerable, and we do that by being transparent, and we do that by being real with one another. And so with this, I'm not encouraging you to all go onto the Facebook page and disclose your deepest secrets. That's not what I'm encouraging you to do. Because I feel there's a level of appropriateness that you need to actually have around protecting yourself. So there is a measure of self-protection around disclosing information that's deeply personal. You want to be in a very safe place, and depending on your level of wounding, you want someone who is an expert and a professional to actually help you with that process of disclosure. But in everyday life, we can actually be a little bit more transparent, a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more truly us. And the process of getting to that point where it is truly, truly us is one place of liberation. And it's an ongoing process. It's an evolution. And I want you to, in this moment right now, just take a deep breath and forgive yourself, because you are a soul in a human body, and it can take years to figure out how to do that right, particularly if you have some of that conditioning that's put the clay on you. Maybe you put it on yourself, maybe other people have put it on and you've let them put it on, right? But life on this planet, we get our training wheels. We can be beginners in all things. And I think it's really important around this space of self-care and nurturing to be kind to ourselves, to forgive ourselves, to know that there is a safe place that we can actually find to disclose our secrets, that actually take them from being something weighty within us to liberating us, and that we are protected, that we have many blessings on this planet that exceed, that just of the physical. And there are many people who are literally here to help you and serve you on the planet. And I hope that the 7-day challenge is one of those things that will start to open you up and awaken you to just how much you are taken care of, how much you are protected, how much you do have to be grateful for. And when we start to focus on what it is we have and what we're grateful for, that is what actually expands. And when we can actually be truly real with one another and share from a place of strength, rather than perceiving our vulnerability to be a weakness, that we become more real to one another. And I think that as we move into the digital age, even though I'm so grateful for the fact that I can speak to you because of the digital age, sometimes it can create a barrier for us where we're not actually interacting with one another on a very real basis. We can hide behind very positive posts on Facebook, and that can lead to some really unhealthy internalization of comparison, of looking at all the positive posts in people's lives and making judgment or perceiving that their life is all great. When one of my favorite quotes, if you're around me for any time, you'll know, is that be kind to everyone, for everyone you know is fighting a battle you know nothing about. And we're actually here on this planet to evolve and to grow and to move, from that caterpillar to the butterfly, physically, metaphorically. And that process of actually doing that is difficult. There's a wonderful story about someone who was watching a butterfly emerge from the caterpillar, and they were seeing the struggle. And so what they wanted to do is they wanted to help it. And so they actually helped them out of the shell rather than them doing it themselves. And what they didn't know is that there's very critical processes that happen with the butterfly emerging from the caterpillar shell that enables it to fly and live. And if it's not allowed to actually do that, it dies. It can't live and fly. In order for us to live and fly, we have to work things out. We have to come to a level of understanding and perception. And sometimes it can be difficult, and sometimes it can be puzzling, and sometimes it can be frustrating. But we do actually have the tools if we keep moving, progressing, evolving. And that's why you're doing this course. On some level, you are actually wanting to move and evolve, to feel good, to feel better, to learn something. That's part of the human experience. And without that, we die. So embrace the knowledge in the program. As we mentioned yesterday, you don't have to get it all done today. You have access to the program to learn and to refresh and to come back to the 7-day challenge, in the group, to actually share within the group, to be real. You can share a recipe that just flopped and said, help, why did this taste so bad? We're actually here to help one another and to serve one another and to support one another. And it doesn't just have to be the lovely, beautiful kind of one-dimensional stories. It can be real things. You can ask for real help, and you can ask for support through this challenge. We are in this together. I'm here as your teacher to be there for you. If you've come to the program through a Return to Food coach, that Return to Food coach would love to assist you. That's what their life mission is. They are Return to Food coaches because they are drawn to this work, because deep in their hearts, they truly want to help other people. And by helping other people, they actually help themselves. And for me, one of the things about doing this work, the 7-day challenge, the 8-week, program that I run, that's a lifestyle makeover for individuals, or it's actually the prerequisite course for coaches as they go into the academy. All of these things keep me on track so I can actually maintain this healthy relationship with food as much as possible, as humanly I'm capable of doing. So, and I've definitely had, my experiences around food. If you don't know the story already, I've been twice my size, not 10'4", but I have had the really destructive, unhealthy, dark relationship with food. And the process of return to food is really about moving out of that and moving into being more liberated, developing a more natural relationship with food, and the beauty that actually comes with that. And so you'll notice that the materials are not just designed to talk about head stuff. It's about heart stuff. It's about spirit stuff. It's about, living more from the gut, not just gut health and getting our guts all healthy, but our instinct and intuition and intelligence, and really combining those three things so that we can actually live more. I think Brene Brown talks about more heartfelt or wholehearted living. So this is one of the things that I believe will really help us develop this healthy relationship with food, our body, and the planet. So at this point, I'm just going to check and see if there are any questions. We have the question box here. I'm just going to type into it. Wish you all good morning, and to see if anyone on the call this morning has any questions. While you're typing in the question box, if you have a question, I just wanted to also let you know today we're talking about oils. The recipe is brought to us by Gina Sauer, who is one of our Return to Food coaches. And this was a lemon mustard seed dressing, vinaigrette, that she uses and that she loves, that's actually helped her to really embrace and love salads. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know about that. We've got, I mentioned the Kim Barthel. We have the interview with her that's happening. That was our expert interview. Got the recipe. Today we're covering the consumption concept, which is one of my favorite concepts. It's the one I alluded to yesterday, and it's also the one I gave the TED Talk on. So I have an emotional attachment to that. And I feel that when we start to relate to food in our body according to how we would in a natural environment, we start to get closer and plug into how it is that we're actually, meant to be living on this planet. And when we start to live more from that place of the consumption concept, we live in a much more sustainable way, mindful of what it is that we're consuming in this present time and how that's actually going to leave the planet for future generations. So I don't see any questions coming through. And I think I have actually covered what it is that I wanted to cover with you today. So if I don't have any questions, and I've wished you good morning, and I've covered this material, I'm going to basically say, have a wonderful day. Please join the conversation on the Facebook page, in the Facebook group. Let us know how you go with the recipe. It's super easy and simple. And I do have one little thing. Oh, just got a message from Chansey, Return to Food Coach Chansey, that says, I hope your day rocks. Well, it's certainly starting out great. And I want you to know that you do have a safe place in the Return to Food community, and that we are here to serve, to be of help, to even just raise your vibration throughout the day so that you can actually go on and face the things that you need to face to grow and evolve. And number one, we're here to share beautiful things about returning to eating real food. And I believe that the name of the book, Return to Food, came out of my belief that we needed to return to eating real food, but it also was based on the title Return to Love, because eating real food is an act of love for your body and the planet. And so I wish you a lot of love today in the way of beautiful food, beautiful conversations, and particularly the conversations that you have with yourself. May you be kind and loving to yourself above all else, because that is the best way you're going to be able to be that way with your friends and family and the people you care most about. Enjoy your day. Lots of love.